5:11 on Kansas City's Morning News. We shine a spotlight now on a local woman and her efforts to transform one house and who knows how many lives.
You're tired, there's nowhere to lay down. You're dirty, there's nowhere to bathe. I mean, it's absolute panic, dude.
That's how Mark remembers his first day on the streets, homeless. He ended up there because of domestic violence, and he was the victim.
I thought I could learn to live with her mouth. You know, the physical stuff, I can't.
On the street, no job, in and out of shelters, struggling for sure. When he heard of a different kind of place to get back on your feet, the Red Door Refuge.
A transitional living home for men who have been homeless and want to get off the street and get their lives back together.
Lori Schwab started the Red Door Refuge project 3 years ago with a bucket list desire to see if she could rehab a house. And she was terrified. So your first impression of the house when you saw it was?
Like, oh my gosh, these houses are just unbelievably bad. But I was looking for something that was at least structurally sound.
As messed up as this one was, it had a really good foundation.
Tom did a lot of the rehab work with Lori and is now the live-in caretaker at Red Door. And he can empathize with the homeless men who stay there.
I went through a divorce and some issues that just kind of compounded, and financially I wound up like hopping couches, living in abandoned houses for a while. Then I found myself down at the shelter, and that's how I met these guys.
Lori, who's been homeless herself, and her husband helped Tom get back on his feet. And now they all help the men who live at Red Door Refuge as they go through the sometimes long, difficult process of putting their lives back together. The house is just off I-70 on Kansas City's east side. 2 stories, 5 bedrooms, new windows, new electrical, brand new staircase. You'd never even know there was once a huge hole in the middle of the living room floor, and that brush had grown so wild and so high that you could barely see the roof. No one would ever believe this is a dollar house.
No.
Lori was one of several dozen brave souls who bought a dollar house from the Kansas City Land Bank a few years ago and committed to rehabbing it and making it livable. John Wood heads up neighborhoods and housing services for the city.
I was almost flabbergasted when I saw the results of what she had done.
He says her success has helped show him that programs like the dollar houses can succeed and then go on to do even more good.
Honestly, every time I drive up to it, it's like I just get a grin on my face.
What are your hopes for the men who come and stay here and get services here?
I think the biggest one is that they find stability and peace here.
And she says that stability and peace can help you find hope again.
Because if you've lost hope, then it's like you just can't get motivated to do anything because change is tough.
Check out our Facebook page and kmbz.com to see some of the pictures of the house before and after. They're incredible. And if you know someone or someplace in Kansas City who we ought to shine a spotlight on, email me. Tell me about them. EJ@kmbz.com. EJ Becker, News 98.1, KMBZ.
On this Thursday morning, Ellen Schenk, Will Sterrett, and also we're shining a spotlight this morning on a once homeless woman who's now doing all she can to help some homeless men. EJ Becker has the story of Lori Schwab.
Actually, I was living in an electrical closet in a parking garage, and it was the middle of July, and I was in there running a fever, laying on the floor going, oh my God, what have I done with my life? I mean, my life was just...
Those hot summer days in Chicago seem like a lifetime ago for Lori Schwab. The Lee Summit woman was only homeless for a few months, but that changed everything. Years later, now living here, married, working, ministering to the homeless through music, she saw it.
When I saw the Dollar House thing, I thought, oh my gosh, you know, I can get something off my bucket list and rehab this house and also provide a place for people to go.
Lori, who had always wanted to rehab a house just to prove to herself she could do it, started looking at the homes selected for Kansas City's Dollar House sale.
I drove by, oh gosh, probably 40 of them maybe, and this one was terrifying, but some of them were even worse.
You couldn't even see the house for all the brush that had grown up around it. There was a hole in the living room floor. It needed new stairs, new windows, new everything. Who looked at you and said, you are insane?
My husband, absolutely. He said, you have no idea how much this is going to cost, and you're crazy for doing this.
But it had a good foundation, and that's what she needed, because she was going to build a lot more than a house on it. Her idea was to build a livable home and then let homeless men who need time to get back on their feet live there. Men like Robert.
I was on a submarine when I was in the Navy.
What'd you do on the submarine?
Basically, at sea, I drove it. When we was in, did a lot of topside watches.
Fast forward a few years from subs in California to hard times in Kansas City. Where were you living? What were you doing?
I was living on the street. Yeah, I was living underneath Bartle Hall.
Programs like the Kansas City Rescue Mission and Restart helped get Robert to a point where he just needed a place to stay. And time. That's what I heard over and over again as I worked on this story, that when you're homeless and trying to rebuild your life, you often just need time to get the things that you and I take for granted. A mailbox, an ID, legal help for little things that can screw up housing applications and other services. Lori says that's what Red Door Refuge is all about.
The kind of best practice now with homelessness is called housing first. You know, you get somebody into a place and then you work on all the other, you know, whatever.
I asked John Wood, Kansas City's Director of Neighborhoods and Housing Services, if Lori is the biggest feather in the Dollar Home Program's cap.
There were about 30 or so other properties, but, you know, that's the one that kind of convinced me that, you know, this program has real possibilities.
When he saw the transformation of the house, he said he was flabbergasted. You can see before and after pictures on our Facebook page and at kmbz.com. Lori opened the doors of Red Door this past summer, and it's working. Robert, who we heard from a moment ago, is the latest to move out into his own apartment. Another man has taken his place. If you know someone or someplace in Kansas City that we should shine a spotlight on, shoot me an email. Tell me about it. EJ@kmbz.com. EJ Becker, News 98.1 KMBZ.